Hello, welcome back to Figuring Out the Bible. This is episode 7. Today we are talking about Genesis chapter 7, which is the beginning of the flood, essentially. So a little bit of a recap. In the last episode we covered chapter 6, which was God being fed up with the wickedness in the world, and God decreeing that there will be a flood, and issuing Noah that he must build the ark and all that. So this is where most of that actually takes place. Starting chapter 7. The Lord God then said to Noah, "Go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation." Remember, everyone else was wicked. Basically, mankind was spared because of Noah. At least in that region. We'll get to that. Take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal. That's animals fit for eating. A male and its mate, and 1 pair of every unclean animal, a male and its mate, and also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth. 7 days from now I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe out from the face of the earth every living creature that I have made. Okay, like I said, pretty much same thing, just a couple more details. Noah did all the Lord commanded. Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters came on the earth. Okay, that's something that the Bible actually mentions like 4 or 5 times, I think, is Noah was 600 years old when the flood happened. Seems pretty significant. Might have to do something about that later. When the flood of the waters came on the earth, and Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Pairs of clean and unclean animals, of birds, and of all creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark, as God had commanded Noah. And after the 7 days of the flood waters came on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, see, there they go again, but this time they're actually giving the specific day. In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the 2nd month, so for us that'd be February 17th, though for them they had a different month system. On that day, all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened, and rain fell on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. On that very day, Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, together with his wife and the wives of his 3 sons, entered the ark. In other translations, it says, and Noah's and his son's 3 wives. So either way, it's indicating they're all monogamous, 1 wife for each man, I mentioned that before. Polygamy, is one of the bigger reasons why God decided to flood the earth. That was one of the bigger wickedness things. You know, a man is to cling to his wife, not wives. That whole deal. They had with them every kind of wild animal according to its kind, all livestock according to their kinds, every creature that moves along the ground according to its kind, and every bird according to its kind. So there's 2 of every single kind of creature, living thing walking on the earth, basically. Craziness, I tells you. Pairs of all creatures that have the breath of life in them came to Noah and entered the ark. So God sent all the animals, just like he said he would. They showed up, they went into the ark, and while they were in the ark, they were peacefully cohabitating. That's what I get from that. The animals going in were male and female of every living thing, as God had commanded Noah. Then the Lord shut him in. So the Lord shut the door of the ark and presumably sealed it so it wouldn't sink or flood. For 40 days the flood kept coming on the earth, and as the waters increased, they lifted the ark high above the earth. The waters rose and increased greatly on the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the water. So, yay, they built a functioning flotation vessel. Keep in mind, the ark wasn't a sailing vessel. It wasn't a traveling vessel. It was just a safety vessel. Basically meant to stay in one spot and just bob. Wasn't really meant to do anything else past that. I don't even think it had steering capabilities or none of that. For 40 increase, they rose greatly on the earth, and all the high mountains under the entire heavens were covered. The waters rose and covered the mountains to a depth of more than 15 cubits. Okay, so from his perspective, remember, Noah, or whoever recorded the account in Noah's time, had no idea how big the earth was. So, from his perspective, everything in the all earth was flooded. But keep in mind how small a single, like a person's perspective is compared to the earth. So, because of the curvature of the earth, the most you can see is, I think, 5 miles. So, if you're looking out and all the mountains and all the big, tall mountains, the tallest mountains in the region are all underwater by like 15 cubits. That's I don't know. I think it's 28 feet. Yeah, 28 feet, 23 feet, 23 feet above the highest mountains in the region that Noah could see. That doesn't mean that everywhere on the entire earth was flooded, but for their perspective, what they could register, the entire earth had been flooded. So, like, this took place in the Middle East region, you know, that kind of Israel, Iraq, Turkey area, that general geographic region. That's where this happened. So, in Europe, for example, there may not have been a flood. There is some theory saying that the flood was actually global. But there is also a line of thought that says that it was just a flood that created a temporary mega lake, or small sea, really, in that region where Noah was at the time. Personally, I prescribe more to the mega lake theory, because a global flood, while I don't put it as impossible for God to do, it's a little far-fetched. I could see easy ways to do it. Like, there's plenty of water on the earth to do it. Like, if God wanted to, he could have the moon move in just such a way that all the the water in the Pacific Ocean just cascades over everything. He totally could do that. But it doesn't sound like that doesn't sound like what he did, because, I mean, I don't know, something just doesn't sit right about that with me. But the mega lake theory, that makes a lot more sense. Because there's multiple cultures that record similar events to the Noah story. There are multiple cultures that remember great floods. So we know floods happen, and we have the physical evidence and the geological evidence and the archaeological evidence and all that. So we know floods happen, and we can tell you which flood, like, we can tell you when each flood happened. We just don't know which one of those floods correlates to the biblical account of the Great Flood of Noah. So keep that in mind. It's difficult. Ultimately ends up being subjective, and doesn't really matter to the overall story. God was tired of the wickedness. He was going to wipe everything out. Noah was the only righteous one, so God spared man through Noah because of his righteousness. That's basically the gist of it. Everything else is doesn't really matter. Doesn't change the story if it was a global flood or a flood in that region, because guess what? That region is also known as the cradle of civilization. So there you go. It basically, even if it wasn't a global flood and it was just the mega lake thing, that still is basically the whole world. Okay? It's more of a symbolic, metaphoric world, not necessarily the entire globe. And various different versions of the Bible translate it slightly different. Some say the whole world, some say the whole globe, some say the whole earth, you know. So it varies, but generally speaking, what we can say for certain was the entire area around Noah was flooded to the point where the highest mountains were well underwater. So think on that. Come up with your own ideas. Let me know down below, I guess. Where were we? Every living thing that moved on the land perished. Birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm over the earth, and all mankind. So all the animals and stuff in that region, at least besides Noah and his family and the animals on the ark, everything died. Everything on dry land that had breath of life in its nostrils died. Every living thing on the face of the earth was wiped out. People and animals and creatures that move along the ground and the birds were wiped from the earth. Only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark, just like I said. The waters flooded the earth for 150 days. So if it was a mega lake, it was around for that long. Like, it was there and then gone. Big picture speaking. Like, 150 days, that's just under 6 months. So from our perspective, it's a while. But big picture, that's like, and it was gone. And if it was a global flood, 150 days is even crazier of a time scale, because that would mean in the 40 days and 40 nights, the flood came in, and it would have meant all land on the earth was submerged in 40 days without some sort of massive meteorological or crazy scientific phenomena. 40 days for rain and springs coming from the ground to flood the entire earth to that level is an absolutely outrageous claim. And then to top that off, to pile on top of that all the water receded in 150 days. That, whew. Can you imagine how fast and insane all of that would be? Huh. I mean, I feel bad for Noah and his family having survived that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad they did, because we're all here because they did. But it's insane to think about what it means if it is actually a global flood. Ultimately, though, like I said before, global flood, mega lake, who cares? Doesn't matter. What matters is there was a flood, mankind got wiped out, Noah was spared because of his righteousness, and the rest is history. In chapter 8, we're going to get into the floodwaters receding and sending out the birds and all of that. And let me see. Yeah. It's the story of on the ark. So we'll enjoy that next time. Disclaimer. I completely forgot the disclaimer. This is not at all authoritative or educational. This is me just reading through the Bible one chapter at a time, giving my thoughts alone. They do not reflect on anybody else. A lot of the stuff I tell you guys in this series is completely off the dome, like come up with myself. There are certain things that I have gotten from other people, like the mega lake versus global flood thing. I got that from other people, and I try and usually throw in a comment of like, there's a school of thought that says da 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 da. Much in the same way Jesus would say, have you not heard, or it is written, when he's referring to scripture, and then when he's just making another an obligatory reference, he's like, whatever, doesn't matter. Or when he's saying something that he thought of, or he is teaching that other people don't, he would simply say it, judge not lest ye be judged. There was no have you not heard it read or blah, blah whatever. He just judge not lest ye be judged, for the same measure you use will be used against you, and all that. So yeah, there really wasn't a whole lot to talk about. That Noah 600 years thing. Like I said, they bring that up like 5 or 6 times. I think they mention his age specifically in correlation to the start of the flood, almost more than, I think they mention it more than anybody else before, or in Genesis, like that particular age. Everyone else are like, oh, they were this old when they had kids, they were this old when they died, so da-da-da. But Noah, they're like, Noah was this old when he had Shem, Ham, and Japheth, he was like 500, I think, when he had Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and then it immediately turns around and says, and he was 600 years old when the flood waters came. Cool. Next chapter, and when Noah was 600 years old, the flood waters came. When Noah was 600 years old, the flood waters came. They say it like 5 or 6 times, and it's, I'm gonna have to look into that. Anyways, let me know your thoughts down below. I would love to hear your guys' interpretations and whatnot of the Noah story. If you have any disagreements, I would absolutely love to debate with you. That's actually one of my favorite things to do, is to debate people and get different points of view, and hopefully find some middle ground, maybe even find some evidence worthy of changing my own grounds on stuff. So yeah, let me know. And thank you for tuning in. It is so appreciated. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.